Why I Became an Expat. A Journey from New York to Nairobi. Introduction. The decision to leave the U.S. and establish a new life abroad required careful consideration of multiple factors. I needed to weigh the familiar against the unknown and ultimately choose a path that aligns with my values, financial needs, and vision for the future. When people ask me why I chose to relocate to Kenya, they often expect a simple answer about the attractions of my new home. However, the more accurate response is not why I chose Kenya, but in why I chose to leave America. My journey to becoming an expat was driven by a convergence of practical concerns and fundamental quality of life issues that made staying in America increasingly undesirable. The primary factors that compelled my departure were the crushing cost of living, relentless inflation, challenging climate conditions, limited social opportunities, and the persistent threat of white supremacist terrorism. The financial reality, inflation, and cost of living. One of my primary concerns as a retiree was how inflation would impact my finances over the rest of my life. Since I would be on a fixed income, inflation posed a major threat to my financial stability and lifestyle. With this understanding, it was abundantly obvious that my standard of living could decrease every year, which was completely unacceptable. This isn't just my struggle. Most seniors face similar challenges with inflation, and long after retirement age, many find themselves returning to the labor market simply to pay for basics like food, shelter, and utilities. Some retirees even lose their homes and either move in with their children or face homelessness. This is a growing epidemic and inevitable for those without a rock-solid financial plan. The ridiculously expensive cost of living in New York was a major concern. This is particularly important because pensions and Social Security benefits are significantly lower than employment paychecks. Pensioners receive, on average, about 50% of their paychecks, and Social Security benefits are usually significantly lower than pensions. Without considerable planning, your lifestyle will take a major downfall. I had planned ahead and reduced my expenditures to compensate, actually having more disposable income when I retired than when I worked full-time. However, I wanted a better lifestyle and knew that if I could reduce my cost of living, I could thrive in retirement and truly enjoy the rest of my life without money issues. To achieve my goal of significantly reducing living expenses, I realized I had to leave the U.S., and that was not a problem, but more of an opportunity to change my life forever. Climate, 4 seasons of discomfort. Being a New Yorker for the majority of my life, I've had to endure 4 seasons that became increasingly uncomfortable as I aged. The winters are brutally cold, cold enough to spill water onto the street and watch it turn to ice, cold enough to watch snow fall and not melt for weeks or months, cold enough to need heavy-duty coats, hats, scarves, boots, and gloves. Some may love it, but I chose to never deal with New York's winter weather ever again. Springtime brings constant rain, and I don't like being cold and wet. Half of spring is cold when it rains, making it an unpleasant experience. Then there are New York summers, where anything over 80 degrees is uncomfortable for me, and New York summers maintain 90 to 105 degrees from July through August. While not every day reaches these temperatures and nights provide some relief, it's more than I care to endure. Fall became my favorite time of year. Brisk weather without too much rainfall, progressing from light jackets to heavier coats as temperatures moderately drop. Cool but not cold, with plenty of sunlight and ease of getting around. Unfortunately, you can't have New York fall without the brutal winters and summers, so even my favorite season couldn't justify staying. Social life and personal growth. Part of my expat journey was to improve my social life. I didn't want to be relegated to staying in the house all day due to lack of finances. I understood that staying indoors all day is generally not healthy, as it can negatively impact physical and mental health. Due to deprivation of sunlight, social interaction, exercise, and exposure to the outdoors, this can lead to issues like vitamin D deficiency, depression, and a weakened immune system. Staying home often means a sedentary lifestyle, which negatively impacts cardiovascular health, muscular strength, flexibility, and balance. Exposure to natural light helps regulate the sleep-wake cycle, which can be disrupted by staying indoors. Boredom and lack of stimulation from being indoors can contribute to anxiety and depression. I wanted to meet people and enjoy a new community while exploring a new way of life. Although I don't enjoy the modern dating scene, finding love was part of my plan, as I wanted the opportunity to share my life with someone special. Finally, embracing new languages and cultures that come with being in a foreign country was very intriguing to me as a lifelong learner. White supremacist terrorism, the breaking point. The hatred of Black Americans has been a problem for over 500 years. It wasn't enough to abduct innocent Africans from their homelands, transport them in ships made for livestock, and sell them on auction blocks while bound in chains. Those evil demons of America had to brutally enslave those Africans for their entire lives, along with all their descendants, an abomination that went on for hundreds of years. The Civil War wasn't fought to free us. It was to force slave-owning Confederates back to the Union for taxation purposes and to reduce their power from cotton profits. After being declared free, we were free to be hunted and terrorized by the Ku Klux Klan and other militia groups. Local and state police, sheriffs, mobs, councilmen, mayors, senators, COINTELPRO, FBI, and even presidents all participated in the hatred of former African slaves. Foundational Black Americans are victims of the most hate crimes, yet don't have a hate crime bill assigned for our protection. No reparations for those Africans. Jews, Asians, even the LGBTQ community have hate crime bills, but not for the descendants of Africans enslaved in America's killing fields. We fought in all of America's wars. Africans built America with literally blood, sweat, and tears for countless years, and still no hate crime bill or consideration of reparations. The facts are stark. Black men are disproportionately shot and killed by percentage more than any other race. Black men are stopped, arrested, and jailed more than any other race. Black men are 6 times more likely than white men to spend time in prison, with increased risk for those who are tall and large. Black Americans are often treated worse in the healthcare system, leading to poorer health outcomes, under-treatment for pain, and disrespectful treatment by providers. Black Americans have lower life expectancy than white Americans and higher mortality rates from cancer and maternal complications. Am I expected to stay there, to turn a blind eye to history as it continues to repeat itself, to spend my entire life in a country that has committed these despicable, heinous, and unbelievable cruelties? Conclusion. The decision to become an expat was ultimately more of a logical conclusion than an emotional choice. By retirement age, I had gained the clarity and wisdom to understand exactly what I wanted from my remaining years and what I was no longer willing to tolerate. The convergence of financial pressures, climate challenges, social limitations, and the persistent threat of racial violence created an environment where staying in America would have meant accepting a diminished quality of life during what should be my golden years. Leaving the United States was not just a practical decision, it was an act of self-preservation and self-determination. Rather than spending my retirement years struggling against inflation, enduring harsh weather, facing social isolation, and living under the constant shadow of systemic racism, I chose to create a new narrative for my life. The opportunity to relocate to Kenya represented more than just a change of address. It was a chance to live with dignity, financial security, and peace of mind. In choosing to become an expat, I reclaimed control over my destiny and refused to allow circumstances beyond my control to dictate the quality of my remaining years. This decision was not about running away from problems, but rather about running toward possibilities. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is leave behind what is familiar and comfortable to pursue what is truly fulfilling. My journey to Kenya is proof that it is never too late to rewrite your story and that the best chapters of your life can begin at any age, in any place, as long as you have the courage to turn the page.